Hello, YouTube. Long time no see. I decided to take a break from YouTube, just to focus on some other projects, but there's one project that I've recently started working on. I'm beginning to be very passionate about it, so I decided to make a whole entire YouTube video on it. What is this passion, you may be asking? I want to make a webcomic. Yes, you heard that, a webcomic. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But yes, um, if you know me, which you don't, because I don't share much about myself, I love my OCs. I love painting my OCs. I love making illustrations of my OCs. I just love making OCs and doing things with my OCs. And my OCs belong to a story that I've been building for years, literally since childhood. I have been building this story. And so you're probably thinking, have you written the story? Have you created a comic of the story? No. I've tried like 4 times, and every single time I just could not get through it. And I figured out the reason why. It's because every time I had a problem with one of the main skills of comic making. So it's like I either wasn't confident in my art or I wasn't confident in my writing, and that was just holding me back. So I decided to learn about the comic making process. So I studied writing, I got better at my art skill, and I actually studied comic making itself. Like I bought a whole bunch of books on the comic making process, and I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty confident that I can make this comic book and do it the right way finally. So I have released 2 parts of the comic book on webtoon, and that was 18 pages of comic books. And I want to do my whole first chapter. I'm trying to get the entire first chapter done. And now that I finally have a process that I feel like I can flow with and I can make multiple pages with, I just decided I was going to make this video to document that, as well as show the process for what it is, and maybe it'll help you do your comics faster if you see the thing that works for me, and then we can make comics together and you can tell me about your comic, I'll tell you about yours. So this video, I'm just going to be making some comics and then telling you about the process, as well as telling you about the characters in my story and why you should read it. All right, let's go. Okay, so right now you see me working on my next 12 pages of my comic book. I'm just going to show you guys a speed paint of this one page, but I'll show like the pages at the end of this video. But basically, I'm doing the line art, and I'm basically doing the entire page right now, whatever. Anyways, so, first thing I said, like, I had to get down the writing. And since the story is so huge and like it's been in my mind for so long, it's kind of like, how do you even work on something that expansive, that huge? And I think that's one of the things that messed me up a lot when I would try to make the comic. I just kept trying to start telling the story at the very beginning. And I learned when I started learning about writing is that when you're storytelling, that you actually don't want to start a story at the very beginning. You kind of want to start it in the middle. So like starting the story at the very beginning only works for like movies and TV shows. You really want to just put people in the story like right before the action's going to happen, and that'll be more engaging for like readers. So that's what I decided to do this time, and I think that's one of the reasons why I was able to finish this and actually make multiple pages, because my story starts, I have like 4 main characters, but I would say the most important character would be Mystic, and I'll get into Mystic more on as the video goes on. But Mystic is from Venus, and like the story, it really starts with everything that goes on in Venus. But then I realized that most of the story takes place on Earth, so I should probably start the story on Earth. And that's like kind of what helped me finally get the story off the ground, was starting the story on Earth. So I decided to start with Mizu because he's one of my human characters that lives on Earth, okay? And I decided to start the story with kind of like a day in his life, like right before he meets Mystic. So that way it puts you right in the action of the story and it makes it more engaging. And so that was a tip that really helped me when writing. And I also, instead of writing an actual script, because I had did that the last time I was making my comic, I wrote a script in screenwriting format. I didn't do that this time. I wrote everything down in like a paragraph or two of kind of like what I wanted to happen in the story. And it was not too detailed either. Only thing that was really detailed was the dialogue, but the actual like script itself was not that detailed. I just really put like Mizu walks here, Mizu trembles, and then I wrote like an entire sentence of dialogue. And I think that was a lot easier than screenwriting, at least for me. And it was a lot easier to break up the script into thumbnailing. So if you don't know anything about comics, thumbnailing is basically like this thing where you like draw a really small, a rough idea of what you want the comic page to look like, and you're mostly focusing on paneling more than anything. So it's like really small panel, kind of how you want it to go. And what I usually do is I'll take like a sentence or two from that big paragraph that I wrote about what I want the next 12 pages to be about. I'll take a sentence or two and then I'll format that in a thumbnail. And this was another frustrating thing for me when I was doing my comic the first time, which was the layouts, the panel layouts. And if you ever looked up anything about paneling for comics, there's like virtually like no information. Like they'll just say panel. They literally won't say like what you should panel in certain moments, how do you arrange panels. Like I could find nothing, and I bought books, like I said, I bought books about comic making and all that stuff, and I've been researching it. You can literally find nothing about paneling. I even, like, one of my favorite artists, I like joined one of her live streams, and I was like, as she was like making her comic, and I put in the live stream, do you have any tips on paneling? And she was like, no, I don't know that, I just do them. So I just decided to look through comic books that I have. I have like collections of comic books and manga, and I would look through them and like depending on the situation and like the sentence or whatever, I would find like a similar scenario that happened in that comic book, like two characters talking. I'll look for pages with two characters talking, and I'll kind of use those panels, and that really helped me get inspiration and start organizing panels on my own. It's really just a visual skill. Like you just have to see panels in order to know how to arrange them for your own story. And then speaking of that, like getting inspiration from other comics, I've had a lot of inspiration for this comic. Majority of it is actually not comics. Like as much as I enjoy comics, I would say that most of my inspiration for this comic book comes from TV shows. So like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, Percy Jackson, Umbrella Academy, Gen V, like just superhero shows. But also I really like the story of a child hero or children with superpowers. Like that is the thing that I really like. So obviously that's what I made a comic book about. So I get most of my inspiration from like things like that. I also like getting inspiration from songs. Like I feel like songs can really just help you find scenes. Like you can think of so many scenarios from a song. Like it just gives you so much inspiration. It just gives you so much inspiration if you hear a good song, and you can think like this just gave me an idea for a scene. Like so good. But lately I've also been getting inspiration from the YouTube channels that I watch or the TikTokers that I watch, and I like this one TikToker. Her name's Kazzel. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'll put the name on the screen. But basically, they make comics, and they've been making them for years, and like I really like the way that their comic looks visually. So I took a lot of inspiration with that when I was drawing these pages because I really like the art style, and it really helped me because my art style is more like painterly and not as cartoony, and you kind of need a cartoony art style for comics if you want to produce them on your own, because it's kind of hard to do fully rendered comics in a painterly art style if you want to make multiple iterations of that, and it's just a lot easier with the cartoony art style. So that's why I really liked like this artist's work, because it just looks really good, and it kind of inspired me for my comic. So now we're going to actually get into my comic. So like I said, I've had this story since childhood, and these are my childhood OCs that I'm turning into a comic. So you're probably like, what is it about? What is it about? This is what it's about. I'm going to give a brief summary, and then I'm going to kind of give spoilers, kind of. So yeah, brief description of the story, and this is what I put on webtoon. It's like 2 sentences, but I basically said 3 children, 3 middle schoolers meet an alien from Venus, and this alien does something to them that makes them superheroes, and all 4 of them go on adventures, and they be superheroes and all of that jazz. So now we're gonna actually get into the characters. I'm gonna like do it in the chronological order that we meet the characters in the comic, so that way it's just like not as confusing. So the first main character that we meet is Mizu. Now, Mizu is a 13-year-old middle schooler, and he's like I was about to call him boring, but I don't want to use like negative adjectives, I guess. Well, I guess I can. He's like perfectly average. He's really average. He like doesn't really make good grades at school. He's not bad, but he doesn't really make good grades at school. Only thing he's really good at is painting. He loves painting. He's good at painting. But he's like an awkward guy. He has literally 2 friends, and yeah, he gets bullied, so it's like but at least he has his 2 friends, and he has a mom and a dad, but his parents are divorcing, and that's where we meet Mizu when the comic starts. He's going over to his dad's house because his parents are in the middle of divorce, so they live separately, and this obviously causes Mizu a lot of stress. He has anxiety, and that it gets brought up a lot in the comic because so many crazy things happen to him that trigger his anxiety, of course. But yeah, that's kind of who he is, and he's just a nervous guy because so much stuff is happening to him. And when he's at his dad's house in the first chapter, his dad gives him some groundbreaking news, basically saying like, I want to have like full custody of you. And that's what his dad says to him, and obviously Mizu is not ready to hear that, and this causes him to leave the house and like run in the forest. And when he runs in the forest, what an unlucky guy, a freaking alien crash lands in front of him. So you might be thinking, oh no, Mizu, no! But don't worry, the alien is Mystic. Oh my gosh, Mystic! Mystic is our next main character. So Mystic is an alien from Venus. It's referred to as Elementaria in the story because that is what they call it on Venus, but it's literally the planet Venus, so all the human characters call it Venus. Anyways, that's where she's from. I don't want to give too much backstory as to why she's on Earth, because this will be explained in like a later chapter, but she crash lands onto Earth and she meets Mizu. Obviously, they're both freaked out because she's never seen a human, he's never seen an alien, of course, and yeah, but long story short, he ends up stashing Mystic in his attic, in his mother's attic. So he walks from his father's house to his mother's house, and he stashes Mystic in the attic. So the next day, Mizu goes to school, and he decides to tell one of his friends about it, and that is where we meet Viento. So Viento is Mizu's, I wouldn't say best friend. I would just say that that's his friend. Like they're close. They've been friends for years, but I still wouldn't consider them best friends. But there's Viento, and Viento's like the emo, brooding, blunt, stoic guy. You know that guy. He's that guy. Viento's like pretty smart. He likes robotics and stuff like that. But I would still say he's kind of a rude guy. Like, so I feel like him and Mizu are really friends on circumstance, other than the fact that they don't have any other friends. Um, but anyways, we meet Viento, and then Mizu's like, "Oh my gosh, Viento, there is a freaking alien in my home, in my attic." And Viento's like, "Oh my gosh, you're lying." He's like, "No, I'm not lying, I swear, like I totally swear." But when he says this, Viento's on the phone with their third friend in our, what was this, the third main character? This is the fourth main character, with our fourth main character, Lenasta. So Lenasta is she goes to a different school than the boys. They used to go to the same school, but now she goes to a different school, and she goes to an all-girls school. So they're still, since she's actually best friends with Viento. Now those two I consider best friends, and they are collectively friends with Mizu. But anyways, she's on the phone with Viento when Mizu is talking about this alien. So she hears this and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you have an alien?" Because she believes him. She doesn't think that Mizu would lie. So then they all meet up after, well, not after school, they all like leave school and they go to see this alien. So they so they all get to Mizu's house, and then they go upstairs and they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's an alien in your attic." And Mystic's like, "Get out." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's an alien." She's like, "No guys, like really, get out." And they're like, "What is she doing here?" Blah 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 blah. Well, they didn't know that Mystic has this magical object that grants powers. And she was trying to keep it contained and give the powers to herself, but they happened to walk in. So the power, instead of going to her, spreads to all four of them respectively, and they all get these superpowers. And that is basically the main plot of the story, is them working out the powers. And there's more to it. This is just a brief summary of the comic book, because obviously I haven't made all of it yet, so I want to make these chapters and for people to find out slowly about the story, so I don't want to say everything, but that is basically the gist of the plot. And yeah, that is what I'm working on, and that is my childhood story, and this is my passion project right now. And I've been making all these pages on it faithfully, and I'm really enjoying making this, because I like making anything with my OCs. Every time I try out a new skill, I usually do it with my OCs. So like when I tried out watercoloring, I used my OCs. When I tried out sculpting, I used my OCs. When I tried out painting, I used my OCs. So these OCs are very dear to me, and they are what I'm very passionate about. So finally creating their story has just been so much fun, and I'm glad that I'm actually like pumping out the pages and all this stuff. And I'm glad that I have a simple process, like a simple 3-step process, just write, storyboard, and then you just do the line art and you render. And that's pretty much all I do. And I'll post like a video about it on TikTok or on my respective social medias. I'm making a YouTube video about it, of course, so that other people will start to read it. But that is pretty much all I do for my comic. And as of right now that I'm making this video, I have 21 subscribers on webtoon for the story. So, and that's pretty good to me for my first webtoon, and I only had 2 parts out. Like, I think that's a pretty good thing. So I'm like really enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this. And so I thought I would just share it with you all, and hopefully this inspires you to like make your stories that you've been waiting on, that you've been passionate about. And also read my story, like read it, please read my webtoon. Oh my gosh, you're going to subscribe, like the video. Like, no, like, seriously, like, please.